Mr. Copey, Mr. Shepro, and Mr. Wallace are not here today. Is that correct? Okay, perhaps they'll join in a little while. Welcome, everybody. And Mr. Leonard, please.
Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United
States.
States of America and republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would everyone please stay standing for the invocation? Lord, who enlightens, we ask for your wisdom as we make critical decisions during this meeting. Help us to carefully discern the relevant information that has been gathered. May those sharing information present it clearly and honestly. Help us to be sensitive, innovative, and just as we brainstorm answers and solutions to Kane County's many needs and problems. Help us to wisely evaluate our options respectfully and open-mindedly, considering the pros and cons of all recommendations and opinions. Finally, help us to strive for unity in making the best possible decisions and effectively bring them to implementation. Amen.
Amen.
Very nice. And may I ask, did you write that? Or,
Yes, I had, well, my wife helped me, so.
lovely, very nice. I think we have two board members who have joined us. I want just to introduce Mr. Shepard. And Mr. Davis, did I hear your voice? No? Okay, my mistake. Welcome, Mr. Shepard. Good to see you, as always. All right, may I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of July 12th, 2022?
Caius move.
Any changes or amendments to these minutes? Seeing none, clerk, could you please call the roll?
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates,
Bates, aye.
Berman,
Yes.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Davister Ford, either arrive. Roz,
Raz, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Copey, Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Silva,
Silva, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surgis,
Burgess, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Mr. Wallace, Winnicke,
Yes.
passes.
Okay, very good. We now are moving on to public comment, and we have a number of speakers today. So as a matter of protocol, we ask all of our speakers to refrain from any statements or remarks or conduct that may become disruptive to the conduct of the county board or which may cause a disturbance. If you are speaking to topic, an agenda item, you will have 5 minutes. If not, you will be given 3 minutes and we will time you. And I do warn you, we will give you a warning at the end and we'll ask for you to stop because you have 3 or 5 minutes. So the first speaker is Kurt Hines. Welcome, Mr. Hines. We will need to get, of course, your name for the record and the city where you live.
My name is Kurt Hines. I'm a resident of St. Charles. I have been there for 15 years and I'm here to address.
Is this on topic or off agenda or off? Okay, so 3 minutes. And could you put the microphone closer to you so we can hear you, please?
There.
Speak into
Is
it.
that better?
Much better.
I'm here to talk about the zoning issue for the proposed or suggested gun shop. I'm a retired executive from W.R. Grace. I came to the area 15 years ago because of the resources, the schools, healthcare system, parks and recreation. But I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to, excuse me, safety. And I grew up in Southern Illinois where, we rarely lock the doors to the house, rarely take the keys out of the ignition. That's maybe a time and a place gone by, but it's of interest. And I guess the thing that I would say is I wonder what this type of business would do to enhance the livability and the safety of the communities that we know right now. Obviously the concern with schools, obviously the concern with parks, recreation. And I think obviously in the news, we've seen an awful lot of the tragedy that is there. And I think one of the things that I think is important to focus on is every one of those tragedies begins with a gun that was manufactured, that was produced, that moves through a supply chain in an industry that is shrouded from responsibility. Unlike the tobacco industry, unlike the Takeda airbag issue, there is no responsibility. And I think a couple last comments. I don't know exactly what this business would sell. I have an idea, my guess is sometimes of gun, ammunition, membership to things. And again, I think my question would be, I really don't know exactly how that would enhance the livability from my perspective. I think from the other side, I would say it probably degrades the livability. So again, those are my thoughts. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jeffrey Lewis.
Yes.
Oh.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity. I'm here on an agenda item. This is for the rezoning petition for the Gum Family Farm. That's G-U-M, not G-U-N. I think my topic is much less sensitive. It's fairly routine, and to be brief and candid, I'm really here in case there are additional concerns or questions that need to be answered. But I think that you'll find the materials from county staff quite appropriate. The petition was recommended approval by the zoning board and by the development committee. And so we anticipate it to be an appropriate request to the full board. Thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. We'll call on you if needed. Mr. Laporte? Did I say your last name correctly? Porta. And again, your name and city.
Yeah, my name is Jim Laporta. I live in Geneva, Illinois. And I don't know whether the jail merger is an agenda item or non-agenda.
No, non-agenda.
Okay. I very much appreciate your opening because it kind of lends itself to why I'm here. I'm not here to criticize anybody. I'm here to hopefully enlighten you with some facts that I've uncovered about the potential merger between the Kendall County Jail and the Kane County Jail. I lived in Kendall for 14 years. I moved here in 2016. So I'm very familiar with the county and people in the county on board and other individuals that live there. And when I heard about this merger, I couldn't understand it. It's one of the fastest growing counties in the country. I said, why are they going to close their jail and then send their inmates up here? Didn't make sense to me. So I reached out to some people and asked some questions to kind of get a better understanding of just what's going on. So I spoke with their sheriff, Sheriff Baird, and I asked him, I said, did you consider DeKalb, LaSalle, Will County, Grundy County? He said, no. I said, why Kendall? He said, it's the closest. Well, I Googled the distance between Kendall and Kane. It's 20 miles. Between Grundy and Kendall, it's 22 miles. It's a straight shot down 47, and mainly not having to go through any residential areas, unlike the trip up here. And then I said to him, I said, well, you got a working arrangement with DeKalb because they house their inmates. Many inmates are housed in that jail that come from outside that county. Did you consider, merging with them or having them close their jail and, send the inmates down to you? Well, they just completed a new jail they built because of the growth that's occurring up there. So, he said, no, he said, I can't get correctional officers to work for me. They've got problems recruiting. There's nobody going into the corrections business. Young people don't want to become officers. Their officers are getting beat up by the inmates. They've got workman's comp that they have to pay, which is increasing. I learned that through other individuals I spoke with. And their officers are getting injured. So basically, he's got a lot of problems down there to run that jail. And he's concerned that, at least this is my impression, that's going to get worse when the new law goes into effect. So I said, it seems to me like you just want to transfer all that up to Kane. It just charged when I lived there, they had a problem with inmates leaving. If they didn't have anybody to come and pick them up, they just opened the door and let them go. Well, many of them from Southern Cook County, they come from Will County, Joliet, outside the area. They had no way to get home. So they're ringing doorbells in the neighborhood asking people for money. So the police warned us, keep your garage doors closed, lock your car doors, don't leave your garage door open or the car door, don't pick anybody up. And individuals around there were very, very concerned about what was going on. Is that me or no?
You have
Okay.
20 seconds left.
So, I reached out to Del Nor Hospital. I don't think I have to remind anybody here what happened there. Right now, they send their inmates to Rush Copley or Sandwich. They bring them up here, they're going to Del Nor. Del Nor's got a nursing shortage. Their guards don't, carry guns. I read yesterday they're going to start an LPN program. The nurses do a great job there. That's a fantastic hospital. Is that it? Okay. Well, anyhow, there's a lot more. I appreciate the time. If you have any questions, I'll hang around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porta. Lona Steele. And I believe this
tall
is
as
off
Kurt.
agenda, so this is 3 minutes.
This is non-agenda. I'm Lona Steele. I'm a resident of Geneva. I'm first vice president of the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. And we would like to talk about zoning in relation to the sale of firearms. The League of Women Voters of Central Kane County requests that Kane County revise the zoning ordinance to eliminate firearms from the list of permitted uses. Gun sales in Illinois already far and away outstrip sales in any other state. According to 24/7 Wall Street, Illinois saw over 6 million gun sales in the first 6 months of 2021. We have only 4% of the US population, but our state had 27% of gun sales for that period. We do not need more ready access to guns. According to Everytown, in Illinois, the rate of gun deaths increased 64% from 2011 to 2020, compared to a 33% increase nationwide. The rate of gun suicides increased 16%, and gun homicides increased 99%, compared to a 12% increase and a 70% increase nationwide. In an average year, 1,505 people die by guns in Illinois. 548 of these are suicides. To curb the proliferation of the private ownership of handguns and their irresponsible use, the League supports a ban on the further manufacture, sale, transportation, and importation of handguns and their parts. Furthermore, the League advocates restricting access to automatic and semi-automatic assault-type weapons by private individuals. These weapons present a clear and unequivocal danger to the public safety. Therefore, the League believes that it is essential to restrict or prohibit the possession and sale of semi-automatic assault-type weapons for private ownership. Additionally, the sale of ammunition for these weapons should be restricted or prohibited. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Steele. Kate Bodke. And Ms. Bodke, is this on agenda or
I
off
think it's
agenda?
off agenda.
Yeah.
I'm a woman voter and I respectfully disagree with the previous comment.
We need your name and the city.
Okay, am I in the time now?
Yes, yes, go.
Kate Bhakti, Geneva. Some persons are existing in a constant state of fear, I've noticed, and it's all by design. Last week, I walked into the USPS store pretending to be a post office over there on 3rd Street to mail a card to my sister who's dying from Big Pharma and to pick up some labels for legal documents I'm preparing. After getting my stamps, I asked for certain labels. The postmaster jumped out of his chair and told me I would not walk out of that door with the label. The teller tried to get me to send my sister's card registered mail and then offered me blank receipts instead. I told him I needed to type the label numbers on my documents before printing them out. The postmaster said they were trained not to hand them out. I asked to see the written policy and he said that he didn't have it. There is no written policy. They were just following orders. What about public service, I asked. I'm just asking for a product that you have on your menu and I'm willing to pay whatever price it is. So what's the problem? Is this a government operation or not? What happened to public service? The postmaster's staying 12 feet away behind the window replied, well, quasi-government. After he let the cat out of the bag, he told me I'd have to leave, otherwise he'd call the cops. Then a female came up behind me. No one was in line behind me. She was already licking her envelopes or whatever. And she tells me that I'm scaring her and then I need to leave, otherwise she'll call the cops. 2 GPD officers came in a few minutes later. The lady who called them wearing scrubs told the officer she's an ER nurse and she knows how these things escalate. When they didn't react, she escalated her story and told them that I had the postmaster pinned up against the wall. She felt she needed to call for help. To their credit, the officers didn't even ask my name. This is the world we live in. It's 1984. Nurses calling 911 because someone isn't the compliant, obedient sheep they want us to be. Merriam-Webster's definition of quasi-public is essentially public, as in services rendered, although under private ownership and control. According to the dictionary, the first known use of quasi-public is in 1839. There's no such thing as quasi-government. All government offices in America have been hijacked by private and corrupt corporations. I always come in peace. Just because I ask questions, just because I try to hold people pretending to be public servants who are actually employees of private and corrupt corporations, doesn't mean I'm a violent person. And the gentleman up here
Thank you.
mentioned the TV. If you want to stop violence, stop watching TV and stop promoting and supporting government operations who put out all of this violence. Thank you.
The last speaker is Adam Pauley. Sure, you can. Thank you. Mr. Pauley, I assume by the topic, this is off agenda. Is that correct? Or
I
is it-
wasn't sure. It was about the sales tax referendum. I wasn't sure if that was on there today or not.
It's on agenda then.
Okay,
That'll be fine. So you will have 5 minutes and we need your, obviously your full name and the city where you live.
thank you, Madam Chair. My name's Adam Pauley. I'm from Aurora, Illinois. I'm a member of the Regional School Board, a precinct committeeman. I'm also the liaison between the LGBT community and the mayor's office out in Aurora. I'm here today in opposition to the proposed referendum on a sales tax increase. But I was always taught not to gripe unless you can offer a potential solution. And there's a very simple solution that's in every grocery store that is something that we can use to fix this problem. Every American uses about 365 plastic bags. It's just a regular one I got from Walmart today. Only about 12% of them are recycled. if we had a 2-cent bag on each of these taxes, or on each of these bags rather, then that would be about $7.30 a person. And with the 531,000 people that live in the county, that would equate to more than $3 million, which I imagine would be able to fill some sort of budget hole. Most people would never vote for a sales tax increase in these times right now because we've got high inflation, high cost of living, and record gas prices. And it's the most regressive tax that there is. This is something that we can use to incentivize people to be more environmentally friendly while also avoiding a very regressive tax. That's my 2 cents on this. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your time.
Oh, very good. Thank you. That was short and sweet. All right, my turn. I'll be quick because I know we have things of interest that we'd like to talk about. I'd like to remind everybody that Kane County has a food drive that will be ending on the 18th. So that is next week. I encourage everybody to, if you haven't yet, to contribute to this food drive. There will be a friendly competition between the government center as well as the judicial center. And I'm sure you have seen the wonderful trophy that can be used as bragging rights once the competition is over with. That'll be theirs to admire and to tout for 1 year, and then the competition will begin again. Boxes are placed all over. I welcome the opportunity for you to buy the items that have been sent out to you. If you do not know what those items are, please let us know, and I'll make sure that Jane sends you another flyer. Please be generous with your contributions. It's for an important cause to go to the Northern Illinois Food Bank. I also want to update you, and I'm sure that our state's attorney will give you a much deeper update as appropriate. The Purdue Pharma lawsuit has been settled by the state of Illinois. They are in the process of putting together 2 statewide committees to decide how this money is going to be distributed. We do have a portion of that settlement will be coming to Kane County. It's based on percentage, I believe, of opioid use. So that will be coming to us. That money is not targeted for the general fund, cannot be used for the general fund. It only can be used to support opioid addiction treatment. So that will be through the health department, as well as through our state's attorney and through our sheriff. So that's where the money will be earmarked for, because we do know, as I was informed yesterday by our state's attorney, that the #1 group of individuals who are incarcerated in our county jail are those people who are suffering from drug addiction. And that can be modified. So that money will go to good use, and that I believe the funding will last for approximately 10 years. There is another settlement in the wings, but that one has still in the courts. The other thing I'd like to do as a backstop to that with the opioid settlement is I had an opportunity to speak with volunteer doctors from Tri-City Health Partnership on Friday. And they would like for me to commend the county board for their support of mental health. They say it's a badly needed issue that needs to be solved here in Kane County, a complex and expensive issue. And they ask for all of you to have continued support for this so that this crisis that we are facing here in Kane County can be remediated. So again, they thank you very much for your support and hope for your future continued support on that issue. So that's, I think that's enough of an update. We now have zoning petitions, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 2 zoning petitions today. The first being petition number 4596 in Big Rock Township. It's filed by the Old Second National Bank Land Trust on behalf of the Gum Family Farm, and it's regarding property commonly known as 46 West 763 Wheeler Road. The rezoning sought is to rezone a portion of the property from F District Farming to F1 District Rural Residential to allow the existing farmette to be sold from the surrounding farmland. It's consistent with the 2040 plan. There were no objectors. There was no Regional Plan Commission jurisdiction. There were the routine recommendations of the zoning board in the context of its approval, and there was approval by the Development Committee. I move approval of this and request a second.
Leonard seconds.
Leonard seconds. Is there any comment or question? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates. Ms. Bates. Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Raz,
Raz, yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Copy, yes. Copy's present.
Oh, you are arrived. Okay, thank you. Molina. I'm sorry, Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Pepro,
Chapro, yes.
Silva,
Silva, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Mr. Wallace, did you arrive?
Yes.
Okay, and your vote is yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Wonicky? Okay, that passes.
Davis, yes.
Ah, thank you. Ms. Bates, did you return? Okay, it passes.
The petition stands approved. The second and last petition is number 4597, filed by David Reimer on behalf of Solus Enterprises LLC regarding property commonly known as 11 North 323 Brookside Drive in Elgin Township. The proposed use is a special use in the B3 business district to allow outdoor storage of vehicles and equipment. It's consistent with the 2040 plan. There were no objectors. There was no applicable Regional Plan Commission jurisdiction. The zoning board approved with routine recommendation, as did the Development Committee, adopting those same recommendations. I move approval and request a second.
Kenyon, seconds.
Mr. Kenyon seconds. Is there any comment or question?
Yes, Mr. Martin, Tepe here.
Yes, sir.
Wanted to comment on the fact that this particular property is in my area, and I've had several comments from various residents about the way the property has looked in the past. Last night, I had the opportunity to speak with the petitioner, who is the new owner of the property, and I'm very pleased to say that he's going to be addressing all of those issues. So I will be voting yes on this particular zoning change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Okay. Allen,
Allen, I.
Bates, Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Fraz,
Raz, yes.
Gums,
Drums, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Copy,
Copy, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro,
Chapro, yes.
Silva,
Silva, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Winicky.
Yes.
That also passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes the zoning petitions.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to those petitioners. I'd like to now make an appointment to the Kane County Emergency Telephone Systems Board. Is Michelle Guthrie here today? And I always let the department heads speak on their appointments. Ms. Molina, would you like to speak on behalf of this appointment, or if you'd like for me to do so?
Sure, thank you. This is a request to appoint Craig Hanson, the Fire Chief of Batavia Fire Department. It's a new appointment for our Kane County Emergency Telephone Systems Board. And I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Second.
Ross, second.
Thank you. Mr.
There you go.
Well, he is Fire Chief of Batavia, so I welcome him on board, hometown. And I'm sure he will steward his position with great dignity and insight. Do you know him, sir?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Mr. Hanson, and not only is he the fire chief in Batavia, but he served on a lot of other departments that are on the TRICOM system. So he's uniquely qualified for this job.
Perfect. Well, we welcome him. Yes.
Very briefly, Shepro, yes, Craig Hanson was in St. Charles for a long period of time before our district established its own fire department. And I could not be more in favor of an appointment than Mr. Hanson. I believe he's been in Elburn, St. Charles, and now reaching the top in Batavia. I commend him all to you.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And to be able to not only to take on the responsibility of his own position that he holds in Batavia, but also to take on volunteer positions that are so critically important, speaks well of all of our volunteers to be able to devote their time to this. So we commend him. If there's no other comments, I believe I can go to consensus on this. May I have your consensus for this appointment?
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful. Very good.
I think we had a motion to approve by
have a motion.
Molina and a second.
Oh,
by
we have,
Fraz.
oh, you're absolutely right. We do. So we do need a vote. I have both your consensus and let's do an oral vote.
All right.
As I saw your face, Mr. Shepro, I went, I know what he's going to say.
Okay, so I'll take the vote.
Please.
Ellen,
Ellen, I.
Bates, Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Fraz,
Raz, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Opie,
Opie, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Silva,
Silva, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Surges,
Burgess, yes.
Tepe,
Debbie, yes.
Wallace,
Wallace, yes.
Winnicki.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Now we have committee updates. Are there any committees that'd like to share an update today? You're all being very, very quiet. I know you've done a great deal of work and you're going to have a lot of work to do in the next month. So, all right, let's go on to our resolutions and ordinances. Would anyone like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Mr. Shepro.
Yes, please, number 22-304, the real Taylor's occupation tax.
All right, very good. Yes,
22-309.
is there anybody else? Anybody online? Also, may I please have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda minus 22-304 and 22-309.
Sanchez moves.
Shepro seconds.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Ellen,
Ellen, I.
Bates, Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Fraz,
Raz, yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Opie,
Opie, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Silva,
Silva, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, yes.
Tepe,
Steppy, yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Winnicki.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, passes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, yes, sir.
I would ask unanimous consent to consider 22-309 before 22-304.
I was about to do that.
Good idea.
Okay, so,
Good morning, Madam Chair. Vern Tepe here from the Public Service Committee. I hereby move for adoption of 22-309, which is the authorization appointment of election judges. This is an authorization and appointment that needs to be done every 2 years. The county clerk has submitted the names associated with it. And as I mentioned, I would move approval of this motion.
okay, is there a second?
Sanchez.
Point of order, please.
Yes, Mr. Copey.
Surges had pulled this 22-309 from the consent. He should have the first word, shouldn't he?
I'm sure he'll be able to open that up for discussion.
Sturgis is not shy.
We have a motion and a second, and now the floor is Mr. Surgis's.
Madam Chair, I received, and I apologize, I'm catching Vern off guard with this. Over the weekend, I had received a couple of phone calls from some constituents saying that they were asking me to explain the process here, which I stumbled and fumbled on. But they retorted back to me that in the listing of judges that they were reviewing, there were several judges that were saying they were with one party but had voted with a different party, and that they didn't seem to think that that was appropriate. In addition, there was an affidavit that was given to me saying that an election judge position during one of the training sessions, somebody whipped out their credential saying, you know, I'm this color jelly bean. And then when challenged, pulled out a second set of credentials saying I'm the opposing color, you know, jelly bean, and that they were dismissed saying that that was okay. Now, I certainly don't claim to know whether that is appropriate or not, but I do have a responsibility to listen to the constituents and voice the concern. And if there is not an urgency here to pass this today, if we could just have a little bit of time for me to research this and get back to them. And I'd be happy to do that with Mr. Tepe or whoever Vern thinks is appropriate.
So I'm not going to put the words in your mouth.
I mean, I can motion the table. I just don't know what's appropriate. I just would rather have this conversationally. And I apologize for the late hour because I'm the biggest advocate of saying the board meetings are meant to call votes. This came to me on Sunday afternoon.
So our next board meeting will be in September and early voting starts. September, when? 29th, thank you. I can't respond to that. Is there somebody here? Yes.
Shepro, I've talked briefly yesterday with Mr. Surges about this and others. My understanding is that there's some process underway where the list of judges the Republican judges is being reviewed, as Mr. Surges says. My understanding is that process was not complete, and there was a partial list that I believe was given to Cliff in the form of an affidavit. This is, I mean, again, by law, despite the fact that Mr. Cunningham's office generally recruits and interviews the judges, the county board is by law the appointing authority. My understanding from years of this is that that does not preclude additional judges from being appointed up right and through election day by the county clerk, which usually happens because we're always short. I think it would be a problem to defer this a month because that's September and you're very close to the beginning of the mail voting and so forth. I guess I would ask if Mr. Pollack is online.
I,
My question would be, is there a process?
Miss Brady is online.
Yeah. Is there a process by which somebody that is on if we approve this, is there a process by which the credentials could be objected to if it were appropriate somewhere down the road?
If we approve it, can they be removed if we find there's an issue?
Correct.
Can, Miss Brady, you had your hand up. Could you please help us out?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Assistant State's Attorney Aaron Brady. Mr. Shepherd is correct. Following the county board approval, the Illinois Election Code has a provision that states that the county board then in turn files a petition with the circuit court asking for an order to commission and approve the election judges. So after this step, a court proceeding is a court petition is filed. Public notice is given in a newspaper and publication and circulation. And at that time, notice of a court date or hearing is published, informing members of the public that if they want to come and inspect the names of the proposed election judges and have any objections to any of those names, they can file those with the court prior to the court approving the judges for the next cycle.
And
yes,
Aaron, Ken Shepro, and that would be a member of the public. It would not at that point require any action by the county board. An individual or an organization could present that to the court.
Anyone can, right?
Yes.
Question, Copy?
Mr. Copey, hold on one
Go
more.
ahead with Mr. Copey.
Mr. Copey, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. What is the actual criteria that to assume that a election judge is Republican, Democrat, Communist, or the such? Is it simply the primary ballot that that person pulls, or is it or is it a matter of preference of the candidate in question when they file for that election judge position? What is the actual legal definition for the acceptable criteria for an election judge in regards to a partisan position?
So I don't have the answer to that question off the top of my head.
That's Aaron Brady speaking.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. I don't have the answer to that question off the top of my head today, but the county clerk's office processes those election judges and certainly has a process and procedure for that. Mr. Copey, I'm happy to pull the relevant portions of the election code and send them to you if that's something that you would like.
Not to complicate things, I just my point is that if that is all that it is the fact that that candidate has voted previously in an opposing party's primary or full primary ballot, then that would be simple enough. But if it is not, then this is a moot point. There's 1,100, roughly 1,100 candidates on that list, and I would say that the person I spoke with recently as of today, they've been through half of the list and they've got about 3. So even though it is a substantial regards towards our democratic process for the 3, it is in reality, if I may, it may be negligible at this point. And I say that only in the context that if it is not the voting history of that candidate, then what is it? You know, and what could it possibly be at that point? And then, and then if that's the case, then maybe all the candidates are in question. You know, so it's a all I would need to know, all this board probably would need to know, is if their voting history in regards to the primary is the overbearing criteria for their appointment. And if it is, then we have provisions in the state statute to alleviate the problem. So I think the whole conversation is neat. Thank you.
We have three speakers for altogether. So Mr. Martin and then Mr. Berman, Mr. Tepe, and then Mr. Surges, you'll have the last word. And I think we need to move forward on this.
Madam Chair, if I interpret correctly what our Assistant State's Attorney said, it would appear that the process is that the county clerk prepares a list. We in effect approve that list, but that just begins the process whereby the public can in fact object if they want to. And if that presumption is the case, then I think we need not sit here today and try to be judge and jury about whether or not these people are qualified. Let's just get it approved so that the hearing can be set and people can in fact have the opportunity to make that presentation. So my thought is let's just vote on this, approve it, and let the process begin.
Thank you. Yeah, yes, sir.
Berman here. Traditionally, it's been the precinct committeeman of the different precincts and the different parties that presents those candidates for judges. At least that's been my experience in the past.
Mr. Berman, could you speak in your microphone, please? Thank you.
If the precinct committeeman is not making those appointments or presenting those people, it's a failure of the political party. They're not presenting the right people. So that's the way I look at it.
Thank you, Mr. Tepe.
Tepe here. Madam Chair, I'm sure nobody likes to be blindsided, and I'm part of that list also. Mr. Surges had the time to talk to Mr. Shepro, or he certainly had the time to mention something to me this morning before this meeting. So I think it would have been a courtesy to at least have done that. This is a process that, as Mr. Martin said, needs to be approved. Let's get along with it. And if there are objections, let them go through the proper process. Let's not talk about innuendos or rumors. Let's talk about facts.
Thank you. Mr. Surges, do you have any final words?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think I was very succinct when I apologized for bringing this at the late hour. I received, while I did have a conversation with Mr. Shepro, that was more of a mentor situation to bring me up to speed, as I did not fully understand the questions I was asking based on information that I had yet to receive. I received that information at 8:52 last night, and I'm simply asking today, what's the course of doing this before I'm asked to vote yes or no? And if the course is we can go ahead and move this list along and there's a chance to obtain further information and keep integrity of the situation, great, super. That's all I'm asking. And Mr. Tepe, you have my word that this was not a torpedo, and I apologize to you. And should I have called this morning, I'm having a garage floor poured and this concrete guy showed up at 6:30 and I was busy with them. So I do apologize.
And I believe Mr. Tepe is apology accepted. Yes, sir. Can we?
I just note for the record that I believe my conversation with Mr. Surges was shortly before 10 p.m. Last night and probably lasted under a minute. I did want to make an observation that maybe goes to what Ms. Brady and Mr. Berman said. Illinois now basically says that you look at somebody's political party by what they did in the most recent election cycle. So what that really means is that you could have voted Democrat your entire life. And if you pulled a Republican ballot on June 28th, you are now a Republican, and the other way around. The importance of the party affiliation is on election day. There are supposed to be, the judges are supposed to either represent the majority party, which is a complicated system, or the second party. And there's supposed to be many times where there's required to be a judge for each political party. So anybody could still, who's qualified, can apply to be an election judge. And they list their party affiliation mostly for assignment purposes. So the county clerk knows that the precincts are staffed with judges of both parties. The issue is not so much what they say they are initially, it's how they're assigned on election day. And if it turns out that they are not what they claim to be, that would be an issue. But as I believe Ms. Brady said, and I think we've all agreed, there is a process by which if somebody has a legal basis for objecting, seems to me that could be done. And so I think we should vote as Mr. Surges has suggested, and we will find out more if there is more. I will say that my experience with the precinct committeemen is that they rarely weigh in by submitting names. And the names I believe on this list are primarily from the county clerk's list of people who have served in the past. And I note that there's a public service involved in doing that. It's a long day. There are people on this list that have served for 25, 30 years as election judges. So
As I mentioned previously, volunteering for the work of the
Yeah.
county, everyone should be commended for their efforts and their philanthropy.
So I
and
guess I
willingness to
call the
help.
question.
Thank you. Let's call the vote.
Calling the vote. Allen.
Allen, I.
Bates. Berman.
Berman, yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Braz.
Raj, yes.
Gums.
Yes.
Iqbal.
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Copey. Mr. Copey. Leonard.
Leonard, yes.
Chris, yes. Okay. Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Silva.
Silva, yes.
Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Surges.
Burgess, yes.
Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Winnicky.
Yes.
That passes.
Okay, it passes.
Opie, yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Copey.
Thank you.
All righty. All right, last one. May I have a motion and a second to approve item number 22-304?
Sanchez moves.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
Caius, second.
Thank you. Discussion? Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, Shepro, I have a motion, I have a handout to accompany my motion that I would like to distribute to the board at this time, and a copy for Blair, if he can put this up.
You don't have a digital?
Yeah. Thanks. Madam Chair, while
Sir,
this
but
is
wait a
being
minute, hold on a
passed
second.
out,
As it's being passed out, could we please get that over to, we're gonna have to take a pause for a minute, because if we're gonna show it up on screen, there's some technical things that have to be done to get it up on the screen. So, minute. So,
Yes, small. Nope.
No, it didn't give me one. No.
Go.
Thank you.
Get a piece of paper.
Everybody got one?
Oh,
While we're waiting, who brought the donuts? Thank you very much.
I agree 100% with this.
Private stuff.
It's nice paper.
Best paper ever. Shep.
Poster stock.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Miss Allen came in and
Doesn't
snuck them
jam
in
my
and then left.
machine if I use the thick tape.
He's got to take a photograph of it on his phone and then
Okay.
upload it. They're gonna go get coffee.
Or an existing house, so graduate, like garage for some.
Yeah, primary.
Core sample, and there's an air space between
I think.
Here we go.
concrete.
There we go.
Held up the edges.
Here we go. All right. Coffee, we can begin.
At executive committee last week, I made a motion which was passed to substitute November, substitute April consolidated election for the November election for submission of this resolution to the voters. And I got some calls from folks. I did some sort of thinking about this. And the concern I have and why I am about to move that we delete April and go back to November, I think is pretty well illustrated by my chart here. We would be going from a general election where the voter turnout, if you look, even in the off years, 2018 was over 50%. If this goes on the consolidated election ballot, the vote in recent years was 11% and under 10%. In terms of number of voters, what that means is that instead of having, for example, 234,000 people vote as happened in the 2020 election, or 172,000 that voted in the 2018 election, which is more comparable because it was the non-presidential even numbered year. In 2019, even including the city of Aurora, there were under 32,000 votes cast. So that's 1/7 or 1/8 of the number of people voting. While it's obviously an individual voter's choice, it seems to me that if we put this on an election ballot where in 2019, over 90% of the voters didn't show up to vote, I think that's really not the right place to put a referendum that establishes a new tax. So I, at this time, would like to move that we strike November and substitute April. Strike April and substitute the November 8th general election in place thereof, wherever it appears in the resolution.
Point of order. Point of order.
Point.
Before you can move an amendment, we have to have a motion.
I'm making the motion.
Just read it.
I just made the motion. I don't understand the point of order.
Maybe he means we didn't move the original motion to amend it.
Very good. I agree. That is true. So I will move the original motion and ask for a second.
I will second.
And I will
Wait a
move.
minute, it was already moved and it was already
Oh,
seconded.
it was, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Yes,
all right. Well,
sorry.
okay, then I will return to my moving an amendment to restore November and ask for a second.
Okay, I'd like to pause for a second. It was Mr. Sanchez and who's second, the original one, so Mr. Caius, thank you. All right, then we
Thank
took a
you.
pause.
And
Okay,
I've sort of
yeah.
made my speech on it, and so that concludes my remarks.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend 22, yes.
To amend, who's the second?
I was like
I don't think,
Hezekiah,
I don't
somebody
think,
said.
is there a second to change this to, from April to back to November?
I'll second it.
Okay,
For-
okay,
For discussion.
okay. So now we have a second to change. Yes, Ms. Gumps.
Madam Chair, thank you. Mr. Shepherd, I appreciate this, this chart, and oddly enough, I was for the November, and I did a little thinking as well and flipped my position, which is odd. And the reason I did that is because there were a lot of questions that were asked in executive about many different topics, and part of that was how informed the public would be. All the questions that were asked were legitimate by every single person in here. The veto session coming up, there's a lot of information. So I actually changed my position because I felt that we needed more answers. As I sit here today, I do not have those answers. I don't know if everybody else does, but I do not. So I would be opposed to that amendment. My thought would be that we could do something a little different, but that's my thought process on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about?
Mr. Tepe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vern Tepe here. Just last week, I made a brief presentation to a veterans group in my community. Approximately 50 people were in that group. And as I said, it was a brief presentation, but I did talk about the Safety Act and the effects that the Safety Act would have on this particular county. The necessity to, over the next 3 years, hire 3 additional personnel, and the challenge in financing that, and really coming up with the funds to properly address those particular needs. There wasn't one person in the room, and veterans in particular are generally pretty informed, but there wasn't one person in the room that knew about the Safety Act. Okay. They certainly didn't know about any anticipated sales tax associated with it. But we only have 90 days or very close to it, before the November election. And there are a lot of questions that are going to arise about this. And we need to see to it that the public is properly informed. And the reason I supported Mr. Aguilar's suggestion to move it to April was that we didn't have the time to really get this out. And I think it's extremely important. I think it needs to be well debated. And I think that doing this in April will afford us the time to do that. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Brown.
Brown speaking. To add to the debate, I guess I could say, like Mr. Tepe, as many people as I have mentioned the Safety Act to, that's going to be coming into effect January 1. Not one person I've talked to knew anything about it. So as many times as we talk about it, the word just doesn't get out. I don't know if it's necessary to pass this tax. I don't know if everything that they say is going to happen. But we're here to make our decisions based on the information that we have. I also believe that I don't know. I don't know if letting the taxpayers, the residents make the decision is the right way to go or not. We've been elected by the residents, by our constituents to make decisions for them. And that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of people don't know about the Safety Act. They don't know what we do. I shouldn't say they don't care about what we do, but they're not informed. We're the ones that have been elected to sit here and make the decisions for them so they can go on and live their life the way they want to live it. The referendum would put the burden on them. I understand it has to go to the referendum in order to be passed. So I'm not advocating one way or the other. I guess what I'm saying is I agree with Mr. Tepe. The residents, the constituents aren't aware of what the reason for this referendum would be. And I don't know how it would go. I'm just kind of rambling on here about this because I'm still confused myself as to whether it should be April or whether it should be November. I don't think it's going to pass regardless. And I know it would help us with our budget planning if we knew sooner than later. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Brown. So
Just kind of rambling.
you haven't made up your mind yet.
Copy, please.
Yes, Mr. Copey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Originally, I had taken consideration of the potential tax through Dr. Silva's passionate plea, which had, in fact, sincerely moved my heart in support of her passion towards public health. As I read into the resolution, there's no guarantee that funds will be used generously towards mental health. The fourth whereas suggests an obfuscation of that intent. The resolution, in my opinion, is too loose-ended. And you look at it, you read it, everybody's got their hands out, as typical, as usual. And the original intent, the original sales bill that I had supported is nearly extinct. And I will have to vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
Are you talking about, Mr. Copey? There's a motion on the table to amend this resolution to move it to November rather than the April consolidated election. Is that
Yes,
your opinion?
I do understand where we're at, but I do not completely understand the parliamentary procedure after this vote in regards to my voice towards the original resolution. So I thought I'd get it out.
So you're
Whatever
not
that is.
talking to the amended resolution. You're speaking to the general res.
I would support the amendment, but I don't think I'd vote yes on the resolution.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yes, Mr. Frost.
Frost speaking. Yeah, I'm going to support the amendment, but I do have a question for Mr. Shepro, just more, it has to do with the mechanics of all this. I think Ms. Gums had mentioned we're close to 90 days from the election. What's the timetable we have to work with? Can you get something on the ballot that soon?
I believe the deadline, Chepro, is next.
Today's the day for the vote. Once that gets voted upon, if it were going to go into the November election, we would get it to the clerk's office by the 10th.
Okay.
So yes, this is,
It is
we're at
doable.
deadline.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, can you clarify, you would support moving it back to November?
Yes.
Mr. Martin? And then Mr. Sanchez.
I would like clarification on when this matter, if you assume the referendum is going to fail, when can this next be brought before the public for a vote?
It would be the consolidated election.
If we vote on it in November, we could reinstate or put the resolution on for a vote in April.
That's accurate. Yes. There, Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I made the point last week at executive that we're kind of in between a rock and a hard place because it doesn't appear that we have quite all the information that we want congregated into one place to help illustrate the situation. But we do have a big election coming up. And then we have another election with a smaller turnout. So thank you, Mr. Shepro, for making that colorful graph to help illustrate my point that I made last week. It's a tough decision. What do we do? If it's the difference between a larger voter turnout of uninformed voters and a smaller voter turnout of informed voters, I would prefer informed voters myself. So I won't be in favor of this amendment.
No other comments? All right.
We just reread the
Ma-
amendment.
So we know exactly.
Madam Chair Bates, please.
Oh, Miss Bates, welcome.
Hi. I want to say that by pushing this moving this up closer to November, I think would guarantee a defeat. I think we need the time to do our due diligence in getting this news out to the public. So I would say April is the best time for this. I will vote no against the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Just to Shepro to comment on some of the things that were made. You know, we talk about, well, we need more time to put this before the voters. The voters aren't even paying attention previously to a lot of the candidates running. And generally speaking, they don't start paying attention to the spring elections until after the Super Bowl. So the idea that somehow they are going to spend the next 6 months or 8 months learning about this, I think theoretically it's possible, but I don't really know that you're going to get substantially more informed voters, but you definitely are going to get a lot fewer voters. So, and I guess you could also make the point, if people think this is going to fail the first time, if you put it on in November and it fails, you can put it on again in April and have the benefits of whatever education process is gone. So that's all I have to say.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
just
Mr. Caius.
a question. I thought that if it was on the November ballot and it failed, that we couldn't do it for 2 years.
I could, is Aaron, are you still on, or can our state's attorney?
We couldn't resubmit it for 2 years.
Good morning. Yes, this is Erin Brady. I am here. There is some restriction on a failed referendum question. I would have to look that up real quick. I can do that quickly.
Yeah, I don't think you can keep running it at the public.
Well,
So-
I have to say, we have a subject expert who has run many.
I would say that,
fire protection
Shepro,
districts.
our fire district ran referendums like every election. And basically, if you alter virtually anything in the text of the resolution or the question, it does not consider to be the same proposition.
Right. Excuse me.
Okay, and Ms. Stevens, when you get the information, could you just chime in on that, but as quickly as possible? Because we're about ready to take a vote. Oh, Jared, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, my question is more directed to Vice Chair Shepro. On the county code, part of the duties of the vice chairperson is assisting the county board chair and coordinating the standing committee's review and implementation of policies and special projects as requested by the county board. So my question is, would you be available and willing to help compile information that would be relevant to voters in the November election regarding this referendum if it so passes today?
Absolutely.
I don't know what the formal process of making that request would be, but.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree that all relevant information should be presented to the voters, and I would certainly be happy to assist in doing that.
Because it's certainly not all in one place right now. Once the vote is on the referendum is on the ballot, people are going to look for that information. And if they have to scour through endless committee meetings and presentations, they're never going to get to it. So I would just request that we have all of the relevant information put together in one place.
Oh, if I respond, I think the real problem with this whole thing is it may be impossible to assemble all of the relevant information because there are frankly so many moving parts in all this. But I think obviously the more information you can assemble, but even in January, and maybe even in April, there are probably going to be a lot of unanswered questions because we don't know what's happening with the Safety Act. The presentation that was made the other day by Mr. Avalar suggests that some states' attorneys are looking at the question of whether there are constitutional flaws in the legislation itself. And whether we know that or not, I guess But anyway, the answer to your question is yes.
And we have a lot of subjective information
Yeah.
with that. Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question. If we,
Name.
oh, I'm sorry, Anita Lewis. So now we're voting on putting the referendum on in April. If we indeed decide to do that,
No, to November. The
I'm
motion
sorry.
is to move to
Well, but the
November.
The
original. one, I was gonna ask
resolution
this-
as it stands today, that this moment
November.
is
I'm
April,
sorry.
is April.
Right.
I have moved to move it back to November.
Yes. If we voted down his resolution, stayed with the April, when would we actually have to make the decision to put that on the ballot? The point is,
You make it today.
would we have to, could we table it so that we could go and look at like all the other questions that are still out there? And even maybe this bag tax instead? Would we have some more time? That was gonna be my question, and
It
The
has to
side of this
deadline,
anyway.
would have to be tabled to a certain date.
Right, and that's what I'm curious, what would that
I mean,
date be?
you could vote it down today, but you can submit a question.
Are we having a?
Deadline is, I believe, like this 10th or so of January.
Okay, that's what was my question
Yes.
for the next round.
Are we having we have special meeting?
Yes, yes, we're going.
Okay, I'm sorry, Gums. I'm just wrapping my mind around all of this because I do not support the amendment at this time. I don't have enough information.
Okay,
I would need these questions answered to support the amendment.
okay, hold on.
We have an answer.
We've got multiple things going on here. Can we postpone this? Can we move this? When there's constitutional issues? We have multiple things, but people have not yet spoken. So Ms. Brady, I think we asked you a specific question, and then Dr. Silva, you'll be next.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Erin Brady. So there is a provision in the election code that prohibits successive referenda within the same 23-month period, but I am unable to give you a complete answer on the fly here because there are a number of different exceptions. So I can continue looking at it, but there is a prohibition on submitting certain referenda more than once within any 23-month period. But again, I can't give that as a final answer because I need to kind of run down some of the notes of decisions here.
All right, so that's an undetermined.
It's undetermined, but there is, Mr. I can't remember who raised the question, but there is something out
Caius.
there. Mr. Caius, thank you. There is something out there on the prohibition of successive referenda, but whether or not it applies to the imposition of this particular sales tax, I'm unable to give you that answer right in the moment here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. If you happen to just stumble upon it, please let me know. Yes. Oh, hold on, please. This is the agenda. This is it. Dr. Silva.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Mine was more of a philosophical reason as to why we should not offer the referenda consecutively. I feel that if it's voted down the first time, the voters have spoken. And so I did want to just let you know that if that were the case and we were able to vote for a consecutive referenda, I would vote against it because I do feel that if it does not pass the first time, we're being told what the voters want. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Yes.
Thank you,
Please.
Madam Chair. I have a question for our Vice Chair.
And
Ken?
name, please.
I'm sorry, Wonicky talking. Going back to what Jared said about getting the information out to the public, because we are the voters of this resolution, should it go forward, let's say we pass it, we can get information out, I think, about the Safety Act and why, can't encourage. We can get the information out about the Safety Act and what's in our resolution, but we cannot encourage voters to vote yes for it. Am I right about that?
Yes, you, Shepro. The election code says that no public funds or resources may be used for or against any candidate or any proposition. So
Correct.
that would be correct. The public body or whoever is allowed to present informational
Yes.
that is, you can state, what the reason is to put it on there, but you can't actually say, vote yes. You really can't even say, we encourage you to vote.
Or it's a good idea.
Yeah, our fire district, as you know, just went through that issue. And school districts do that all the time. The school districts will often tell you what will happen if it doesn't pass. Like if this doesn't pass, we're going to cut the football team. That's pushing it, but that has been ruled to be acceptable. But yes, you cannot advocate.
So I think that this is an important point for all board members who aren't aware of that, because I believe that could come back to bite you if you talk to your constituents and say, well, this is a great idea because we need the backup money. Or no, I don't think you really should vote for it. It would get us in trouble.
You cannot have an opinion. You can only give out
Exactly.
information.
Exactly.
But it's also true that an individual board member can still advocate for or against.
Right.
Mhm.
It's the public body and its resources that can't be used.
Mhm.
Definitely. I have a
Yes, sir.
Berman here. One of the other things we haven't discussed, it could be a non-binding referendum if we're just looking for the information as to how the public feels about it.
That's also correct.
All right, we still have to vote on whether or not we have a motion to amend this particular motion from April, change the language back to its original concept, which was November.
Madam Chair,
Are we ready to take?
could I
that
take
vote?
a crack at suggesting what I think the range of options today are?
If, yes,
Before-
let Mr. Ford briefly.
Thank you, Madam Chair Ford. Just a clarification on what we're able to do individually as elected officials. Are we allowed, as we knock on doors this fall, to actually pass out information on this? Because my whole thing is not when it's being done, is how much effort is being put into it to inform the public.
We'll defer to the state's attorney, but my belief is the answer is yes, you may.
Ms. Moser.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ford, can you repeat your question?
That as we knock on doors this fall, are we allowed to pass out information on this referendum?
So yes, it's very complicated though, because as you're knocking on doors and you're advocating for yourself to be reelected, you have to keep that separate from passing out information so that it doesn't look like you're trying to advocate for that. Again, we can be informational, we cannot be persuasive.
So just to clarify, if this body were to put together a page of points, and this is what the Safety Act is about, and this is the language for the referendum, and this is what it would do on your purchase of $100.50. Here's the information on it. This is for your consideration, Ms. Voter.
Yes, that's acceptable.
I have a question then for the state's attorney.
Yes, sir.
All right. So is it the state's attorney's position that Ron Ford, just to use an example, cannot say publicly, I am for this, vote for it?
So this is where it's tricky. Mr. Ford, if he is running for election, is going to be talking about the different ideas that he has and what he wants to bring forth. So as he's doing that as a candidate for his office, obviously that's something that he can do because that's one of the reasons why he may want somebody to vote for him. What I'm cautioning though, is that if he is acting as the elected official here and he's passing out the information, that is for informational purposes. It is a fine line where you're trying not to do the electioneering, as you have stated earlier, versus providing information so that the voters can make an informed decision.
So
You can obviously see many situations where it could cross from, the appropriate into the inappropriate.
So what you would do then, if I may interrupt, is as you're talking to a constituent, you would say, I am not acting in the capacity at this moment as an elected board member. I'm talking right now as a candidate.
So part of that is that if an elected official here votes in favor of this, then there's a reason why they voted in favor of this, because they're putting it on the
That's the thin
referendum.
line. Just one more. My idea would be for me, not personally, to hand the information. Those who walk with me, someone else will actually, after me, would hand them the information. It would not, that's the way I would do it. That way I have no statements for or against it.
All right, we're fine tuning all of this. I think we still have got to, we've
This
got,
is a whole nother discussion, really. I mean,
I just have one more comment if you don't mind.
yes, Ms. Gibbs.
I just, everybody is clearly on the same page. I think that frankly, the public needs this information. And I think we need time to do that. So, I mean, everybody's pretty much said that collectively. So I still will not support this amendment, but I think we can get it done. So it's my last point on it.
No, I'm sorry, you're not supporting moving it from April back to November.
No, because it's gotta be, I mean, we have what?
90 days.
90 days.
But it's, I mean, that's not even 90 days really, because early voting and all the other stuff. I mean, the
September
messaging part of
29th.
it, the messaging.
Madam Chair, Bates, please.
We're going to have to take this vote because we have to talk on the
May I
actual.
call the question?
Yes.
Absolutely. The question has been called. Martin, please.
No.
The question has been called. Please call the vote. And could you please read what everybody is voting on right now?
Okay, this is going to be the motion, Shepro's amendment to change the date to the November 8th date. We're not going to have the April date.
Well, this
April 4th, I think, was the
April
date.
4th
So
is
this
the
is just
election
on the
date.
amendment, okay? Ellen,
I think we lost.
Miss Ellen? Bates,
Bates, no.
Berman,
Berman, no.
Brown,
No.
Davis,
Davis, no.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Braz,
Raz, yes.
Gums,
No.
Iqbal? Mr. Iqbal? Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Bias, no.
Kopi,
Hope yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Lewis,
Lewis, no.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, no.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Silva. Silva. Strathman,
No.
Burgess.
No.
Burgess, yes.
I'm sorry, Strathman, no? Okay, got Strathman as no. Surges
I think
is,
that was
That was
Silva.
Silva.
oh, okay. Silva,
Monica, was that you?
Yes, it was. My vote is no.
thank you for that clarification. Okay. Let me call again. Strathman?
No.
All right. Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Seppi, no.
Wallace,
Yes.
Winnicki.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Iqbal.
No.
Miss Allen, are you there?
Alan is here and this is the vote to move, this is the vote on the amendment back to November, am I correct? I vote aye, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Then, Mr. Iqbal, are you there? Did you have a vote?
What did Alan?
He's out. All right, let me count these up.
Yes.
12 to 12.
I didn't hear Mr. Iqbal's vote.
Did we hear Iqbal?
No.
At 12:11 that it passes.
But where's the 24th?
Iqbal didn't vote.
Iqbal did not
Didn't vote?
vote. He did not vote.
Iqbal did not vote. So you have 23. So it's 12:11.
So
I will double check one.
Moved.
10, 11, 12, right? Yeah, 12:11. So that passes, and so I guess the amendment moves to change that date.
November.
It goes to November.
I'm gonna vote again.
The motion failed?
Motion passes.
The amendment passed.
Amendment?
Amendment.
It's just the
Amendment to
amendment, not
the
the
It
resolution.
passes. Question is now on the motion, the resolution as amended,
Madam Chair, what was the total vote?
12 to 11.
Iqbal did not vote. Oh, nothing on it. Whether he's here or not, I have no idea.
Need to have a talk.
So is there discussion? More discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Lundey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With the amendment passing and it being put on the November ballot, I just wanted to state that I will be voting no on the sales tax referendum, but I would like some clarification, if I could, from Madam Chair on a fact that we discussed about 2 weeks ago. And I believe at that finance meeting, Madam Chair, you had stated that this sales tax increase, if it were passed, would not apply to gasoline. Is that correct?
That's accurate.
I was wondering where you got your information or how you came about that.
That information was given to me by the state's attorney during her presentation, and that was done by Vince Coyle.
The reason,
Clarification.
yes, the reason why I ask is I have some conflicting information. I received information from a Mr. Riley Marr, who is a 30-year manager of the Illinois Department of Revenue for Motor Fuel Division in Illinois. And he stated that it would apply to gasoline, groceries and clothing and the other items, but it does apply and it would be added on at the pump. So the reason why I need clarification on this, I will be voting no, because I think this becomes a regressive tax. Everybody in our county has to buy gasoline. And if they're being taxed more on gasoline, which previously I didn't think they were, then I will definitely vote against it. So what I got from the Illinois Department of Revenue Motor Fuel Division was from a manager that's been there 30 years, and he's also an expert witness for various law firms and a consultant, that this tax would apply to gasoline in the Kane County.
I'm going
So-
to defer that now to our state's attorney for.
It does apply to the gas.
It does apply,
Yes.
yes.
Well, then why were we told separately that it was not?
So I don't know the answer to that. I don't recall the gas issue being brought up.
Was brought up.
Okay, so I do know that Mr. ASA Coyle is online right now and maybe he can provide some clarification, but the information that I have is that it does apply to gas tax. There's a lengthy list of items that would be exempt, but Mr. Coyle, are you online?
Hello, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Mr. Coyle.
Yeah, so I did do a presentation before, and in that presentation, it did have education materials, which did include that gas would be included. I would note that the education materials did indicate, this was from another county, and they had put in there that out-of-county residents would be taxed on gas as well. And I think that was just more informational, like, you know, residents of other counties who come to Kane to use gas would be taxed as well. But it would apply to anyone buying gas. So I don't know if there was confusion in that, but it's my understanding that it would apply to the gas.
So anybody who buys a gallon of gas, and this is new for me because I had the assumption, and thank you for that clarification, that it was not a taxable item. Can you please pull up while we're in this discussion, Mr. Coyle, the items that are to be taxed?
So it would be, I I don't know if I can pull it up, but it's any personal tangible property sold at retail within Kane County. And then there are some items that are excluded from that. So if you were to buy a vehicle, that would be excluded. If you were to buy groceries, that would be excluded. Prescriptions would be excluded. Those are some of the items off the top of my head. But generally speaking, any tangible personal property sold at retail within Kane County would be taxed on this. So gasoline would be included with that. And if there is specific items that you want me to look into, I can certainly do that as well.
So your gasoline, I purchased gasoline yesterday and I was very grateful. Actually, I had 25 miles left in my car, so I filled the car up. Same gas station I always go to in Batavia. My price, more gas, and it went down by $5. So I was very happy to see that. So if I had spent that additional $5 on gas, which I had done the previous 2 weeks ago, I would have paid approximately
25 cents.
no, less than that, less than 25 cents. Yes, I would pay $2.50 on that purchase of gas.
Well, no, you save $5.
I
You
saved,
pay
well,
two and
if
a
I
half
said,
cents on the whole fill up.
if I had,
You'd pay the
point-
0.50 on the
I said,
whole
but
fill up.
exempt from that
So
5 cents.
it's not what you saved, it's what.
I
you
know,
paid.
I understand. I understand. Yes.
So when Brown speaking, so the number that we've been furnished as a projection of what this tax would generate as revenue for you, for the year, would that now include the gas or not? Because it's been misunderstood as to whether or not gas was taxable for this.
Yes. Let's get Mr. Onsick up here.
Yes, this is Director Onzik. The information as far as the estimate of the revenue that would be generated by the tax came directly from the Illinois Department of Revenue. And so they based their estimate on the last 3 fiscal years. And so they did the calculation on as if that were also collected at the same time. So it's based on the prior year actual collection, which would have included apparently gasoline.
Gas tax. Yes, sir.
Sheriff Surges. I'm sorry, Surges here. I have asked about this question several times that you're aware of, and there's been conflicting information on it. And based on the research that I've done, and again, I just use gas as my big deal because the amount of taxes that are leveled onto a gallon of gas are incredible. So, I mean, incredible. And to say I saved $5, I'm still paying $5 more than I did last year. So I'm not happy with it. But my understanding of this, and anybody jump in if I'm wrong, a gas tax was based on per gallon. So I put in 10 gallons. This was that tax per gallon. This is what the math is. The occupational sales tax simply took the total receipts for that fill up, whether you did $7 or $70, and leveled the tax on that amount. And those are two very different methodologies that was explained to me.
Not a tax,
I'm sorry.
not tax on a tax.
I'm sorry, we have sideways conversation. We need to have it on.
Yeah, so my understanding is that's the difference in methodology, but it is a tax on the purchase of the gasoline and its totality of your receipt, not based on an individual gallon, such as the gas tax is. So that's what my research has indicated.
So this, you're talking about not the occupational, but countywide sales tax. Is that what we're talking about?
No, the occupational sales tax takes the total receipt and taxes off of that. Where all of the other gas taxes, if you were, that was air quotes, gas taxes, if you will, is based on a per gallon amount. Just different ways of doing it. And I'm not sure when I asked you the other day if you were looking at methodology A and saying, no, no, that's not it, but there's a methodology B that does include it. And
Total cost of
Totality,
sales,
yes.
total cost of sales.
correct, correct.
So we're saying a sales tax is a tax on a tax then?
There you go. I think so. Oh, no.
No,
You said it, sir,
Tax
not
on
me.
purchase.
Well, because most of that, how much of that $5 for a gallon of gas is taxes?
you can't tax on a
I
tax.
don't think so.
Can't be a tax.
If I can
What-
respond directly, I am certainly not suggesting it's a tax on a tax. What I'm telling you is the methodology is it uses the total sale and then employs it from there rather than a per gallon sale.
Is that confirmed? Is it on the, you can't, if you were to buy, I don't have a receipt with me. If you were to buy $1 worth of items and and it's 10 cents worth of tax, they're not going to charge you $1.10. They're going to charge you on this particular item for this tax on the dollar purchase, not the $1.10 purchase, which is what you're alluding to. So in your graph, how much is a gallon of gasoline minus all the taxes?
Okay, so it doesn't matter. In the methodology that we're proposing, one tax is based on a cost per gallon. The other is based on the totality of the receipts. I don't have the ability to tell you if it was based on just the gasoline portion or the tax portion.
Can't be based on tax. You can't pay. you
Okay,
can't-
so take that component out. It's still based on the total purchase of whatever the cost of the gasoline was, rather than a cost per gallon.
So on your chart, sir, you brought this lovely chart. On a gallon of gas on that specific chart, what is the total price on the total purchase per gallon and then minus out the tax? Because I think you'll find it significantly less just for a gallon without tax.
Madam Chair,
I'm not sure I was germane.
Can I please
Chair?
have ASA Coyle discuss this right now? He might be able to help clear things up.
is this relevant
It's not, well, it's,
to the question?
they're
Is this
talking, they're,
relevant to the
they're
question?
going on about gasoline
Are-
tax
Yeah, is this relevant to the question? I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
to
Point of order. Is this relevant to the question of whether we pass this or not?
the gasoline aspect of
Yeah,
it.
whether it's taxed to.
So
Well, let's-
Mr. Caius, I think this is a fact that they're looking to get answered before they vote yes or no as to whether or not this referendum is going to be placed on the ballot. So in my opinion, I do think this is relevant, and I think ASA Coyle can clear up this issue for us.
Okay. If it's relevant, go for it. Let's figure this thing out.
Mr. Coyle, please.
As it relates to this tax, from my research, what I've been able to determine is that if you were to go to the gas pump and pump $100 worth of gas, what is being proposed today that it'd be an increment of 0.5%. So you would pay 50 cents in tax for the $100 that you would pump at the gas station. I have not specifically researched the other motor fuel taxes as it relates to taxing by per gallon. But for this tax, it would be taxed at a rate of 0.5%. So for every $100 you spend at the gas station, you would have to pay 50 cents in tax.
But I think that the question truly needs to be clarified on this matter, whether or not that is a tax on a tax, which just doesn't seem appropriate. Yes, sir, Mr. Martin.
It seems to me that we're creating our own red herring here. The fact is, gas will cost more when you put it in your car if we enact this tax. And how they compute it is somebody else's job based upon the existence of a statute and a computation and a bunch of accountants. But gas will cost more as a result of this tax. We just, as we sit here today, we don't know how much more. I shouldn't say that. We don't know the computational method. We know that it's going to cost more. And that's, to me, the only relevant question Mr. Caius asked as to its relevancy. It's going to cost more.
Yes.
How
However,
we
it's
compute it, I don't want to get into, well, I can ignore a conversation, I guess.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would agree with Mr. Martin. No matter what, if it passes from what we're learning here today, the gas will cost a little bit more, but for context, if that $4 gallon of gas is pumped, only 2 cents would be an addition. So I think that's also important information to include in the conversation.
Yes.
I would just like to add that I'm more confused than I was to begin with.
Yes.
So I will reiterate that I think we need more time on this.
So,
I mean,
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Caius.
So the question, not calculations or anything, but so now we've voted that it has to be on the,
November.
it has to be November. If we vote this down, is there a chance for us to bring it back up in the spring or November or December or something like that when we have more information? Because that's my question is, do we have enough information?
There will be a new board.
We're kind of in a holding pattern somewhat. We have 2 people in isolation right now, staff
I
wise.
think you got,
And I don't know
needs
if
to
you
be-
guys would like me to send.
there you go.
Who-
So the question is, if we vote it down, I want to make this concise here. If we vote it down now, if I was to vote no on it, does that erase it forever or we bring it up and still could have it in April?
The new board, the new board can bring it up,
Next month.
bring it up next.
After we
month
have
to
more
discuss.
information on it.
But it'll start through committee process once again.
Got it.
It will
Oh.
continue on.
We have more information.
And that
Table
means
perhaps?
that it would then be issued back potentially because it'll be a new board that may be voting on this. So you will have the opportunity to have a new board vote on whether or not they would like to place this onto an April ballot and to get information on it.
This will be it. Mr. Kyles, I think our conversations are the same on this end of the table, where if it goes on the ballot and is voted no, there's a limitation. If we vote not to put it, we can in fact put it back on. Am I fundamentally understanding what Ms. Brady said correctly?
Yes.
Not for November.
Not for November. Right, for April.
Right.
It'll be off the November ballot because there's simply not enough time.
Tax on something else in November like this.
You know, the more I
Copy,
think about
please.
this, John Martin, the more I think about this, we're,
Copy, please.
Yeah, Mr. Copey, hold on a second, please. We have a speaker and then I'm going to have Ms. Brady speak and then Mr. Copey.
the more I think about this, the more I think that we're contemplating asking the voters to approve an increase in their taxes, not only at a time when we've got massive inflation and they're paying close to $5 a gallon for gas. And we're doing it on a hypothetical because I think that you can't talk to anybody who doesn't look at this Safety Act and say it's going to be a nightmare that either has to be addressed or it's going to fail. I mean, we know from things that downstate judges have said that they're simply not going to enforce it. They don't have the resources. They couldn't hire the people that they're supposed to do. This is going to collapse in itself. And how do we educate people on a hypothetical? And say,
It's
tax
law.
yourself.
It
And
has been passed. I'm certain, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we do know.
it's been passed, but I'm feeling increasingly uncomfortable with assuming everything is going to go ahead and we know what the dollar figures are and we know in fact what our shortage is. I mean, we still have, at least in my mind, we have significant discussions going on relative to the economic wherewithal of the county itself. And if we're going to start the education process, whether it's now or for April, we've got a bunch of stuff that needs to be resolved. We haven't dealt with the budget this year. We don't know what that number is. We've got a lot of hypotheticals. We don't know what the veto session of the state legislature is going to do, if anything. And my mind is slowly changing here as to the wisdom of and the expectation, frankly, of going to my constituents and saying, hey, we'd like you to pay some more tax because we have every reason to believe that we're going to have a lot of money that we have to spend in the next few years when we don't know as a certainty.
I would like to make some comments on that, but I would like to get Ms. Brady, please.
Thank you. In follow up to Mr. Caius's earlier question and the matter that Mr. Sturgis just raised, the public question prohibition, the restriction on the 28 months looks like that's limited to questions for consolidation or forming new units of local government. So it does not look like that is relevant to this particular discussion.
So thank you. So we could put it up in November, get an idea of what the public feels about this, and then have adequate discussion, adjusted appropriately, and then bringing it up again in April. So it's there's a no, I say that is a no loss. I did, if I may, and I know Mr. Cope, you'd like to speak. I did speak with two of our state legislatures, two senators. I asked all of you to call your own individual senator, if you so chose, or representative. They have assured me both, one voted for the bill, one voted in opposition to the bill, that there is not going to be the political will of the Senate or of the House to change this in any substantive form during the veto session. So that's why what I heard. I asked all of you to please call up your legislator to confirm that or to get their opinion, but there is simply not the political will because there is inherent good in this piece of legislation. Yes, it has to be amended. I think we all agree that there's some adjustments that have to be made. I had a brief conversation, but a very good conversation yesterday with our state's attorney about this issue regarding the need that Kane County has for additional supports to help take this bill and to make it our own. And she said that she needs to hire the attorneys, the support staff surrounding the attorneys to implement this. I asked her directly if it could be modified, knowing that we may have some budget issues facing us, fully aware of them. I own it, I sleep it. And she assured me that this has got to be, find a way. Have to find a way. And this was a presentation for a potential path forward. And obviously now it presents, hearing what Ms. Brady has to say, it presents no harm. It does not cost the county any money to put it on the ballot. I think Mr. Copey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A lot of water is over the dam, but is it possible we could consider two solutions? And the first one probably doesn't comply with the timing aspect. But if it is your pleasure, Madam Chair, I would stand to move a resolution in regards to either one of these or both of these considerations. One is to table the resolution. Two would be to redact gasoline from the potential taxable items, if that is a possibility. Thank you very much.
That'd be very difficult. Not within our authority. I don't think.
Ms. Brady, I'd like to get a response from that, and Mr. Sanchez, please. Ms. Brady, can we eliminate gasoline purchases from this tax?
I don't know that that's possible. The authorizing, excuse me, I just printed something. The authorizing statute and regulations speak to the items that are allowed or disallowed. And I don't know whether counties have been granted any additional authority to regulate further there. So that does not seem like something that we would be permitted to do under the statute and the regs.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As this conversation winds down, I'd just like to remind people that voting for the referendum today is not actually voting for the referendum at the polls. You can vote today to give the people the option, go to the polls and vote no. So often this gets politicized and these kind of votes get turned into kind of a muckraking sort of thing. And I don't think that that everybody really grasps that concept well enough, that us voting yes today only allows people of Kane County to make a decision. Direct democracy, as I mentioned in executive committee last week. For my colleagues who would oppose the referendum in general, I would ask, what is the alternative that we have? The ad hoc committee unfortunately didn't really explore the scenario of if the sales tax doesn't go through, if we do need $20+ million in our budget in the next few years, each year, what are we going to do if this doesn't pass? What's that going to look like? Are we going to get rid of the jail and ship our people off to other counties? Are we going to get rid of the health department and go back to us being the Board of Health, trying to oversee those kinds of operations that are mandated by the state? Are we going to have courts just twice a day or twice a week? I'm sorry. And, back things up for years with all the cases? What is that going to look like? So I just want to challenge my colleagues who are opposed to this ideologically to really come forward and help us look at what are we going to do if we don't have the sales tax referendum pass, because we have to have that answer in case it doesn't pass. And I'm just not hearing any of that information coming from anybody. So that is my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Ms. Bates?
I believe, can you hear me, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I believe that my colleagues who have voted to pull this back into the November timeframe have either intentionally or not intentionally essentially defeated the referendum before we begin. If I can vote no today to the referendum in November and in the near future vote yes to the referendum in April, I would probably take that course. I don't see how we can do it by November. We can't educate our voters.
Can't educate ourselves.
Thank you.
I needed that giggle. Thank you.
We have spent so much talking about the requirements of our budget and a potential step forward with that the details and the nuances of this tax is something we all still have to obviously to learn.
Madam Chair, I have a
Yes.
question and forgive me because I don't know anything about this.
Mike, please.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking here on the fly. So would it be appropriate to table this to November? That would not be no.
This argument again.
Yeah, we'll just do it again.
No.
Just do it again.
Oh, I apologize, but yeah, I was just,
Okay.
yeah.
Too late.
Yeah.
I
okay.
think we are winding down with this conversation.
Just to respond to Ms. Gumb's question, I mean, what you can do today is you can vote yes, in which case it would go on the November ballot. You can vote no, in which case it won't go on the November ballot. You could, but, and I think as we've said, that either way, if it's on the ballot and it loses, or if you don't put it on the ballot, it can be put on the April ballot if the new board so chooses. If you could table it, which would mean, my interpretation of Robert's rules is that it is on the table indefinitely until someone moves to take it off the table. You can postpone it to a certain date. You can postpone it to indefinitely, which is pretty much like putting it on the table. Comes until you take it off. But it seems to me that there's no point really tabling it. I mean, because you can always make a new vote. And I mean, and arguably, we didn't discuss this, this is more down in the weeds. if you pass it to, if you were to pass it for April, as some have urged, a new board could conceivably say, we're rescinding that before, as long as they do it before the deadline. Part of the problem that is, who can, I would ask rhetorically, what is it that this board is going to do to educate the voters if they have all this extra time? It sounds like we don't think we're really going to know the answers any more clearly in January than we do now. And so where does that, where does that leave us? I mean, we can't advocate for it. As I think I heard one board member suggest, far from educating the public, we ourselves are not educated as to what's really going on. And even this discussion about was the gas, included or not is indicative of that. And so I don't know. I don't know where that takes us, but it doesn't seem like there's any real plan to move forward with how this education process would take place.
If I may, Ms. Molina, and that'll be our last comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't planning on saying anything, but I think I just wanted to remind our fellow county board members that for years we've been looking for alternate sources of revenue. The Safety Act only amplified the need that our judicial partners have had for the past 8 to 9 years, where our levies have remained frozen. So regardless of whether or not regardless of whether or not the Safety Act had occurred, we are in need of additional revenue. And I have always voted against raising property taxes, and I'm not in favor of raising property taxes. And I think some things like a sales tax, which is a choice tax, is the best alternative. So I think, in the next 30 days, I urge my fellow county board members to become more educated and to work together to understand what this referendum could mean for the county. And today's vote is just to kind of push us to kind of stand up and do the work. So I hope we vote for this and we work together to provide our judicial partners and our representatives and our residents the needs that we have going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to call the question with one more comment. So everybody understands that when you come into Kane County, if you are not a resident of Kane County and you happen to purchase whatever item you may be purchasing here in Kane County that is clearly exempt from that tax, no matter where you live in Cook, DuPage, Kendall, McHenry, etc. If you come shopping at the Chicago Premium Outlet Mall, if you go to the Scarecrow Festival, or whatever opportunity you have to come here to beautiful Kane County, you will be paying that tax and contributing to our mutual public safety. And if I dare say, also mental health efforts, because that's very much in part of the administration that we have set up with our sheriff and with our state's attorney, and now through public health as well. So I'm going to end that the way I started it, with that conversation from the doctor saying, thank you, King County, for supporting mental health. And I look forward to getting additional support from you. So clerk, please call the roll.
Okay, for resolution 22-304 as amended with the November 8th date. Ellen?
Ellen, aye.
Bates?
Bates, aye.
Berman?
Berman, no.
Brown?
Brown, no.
Davis?
Davis, no.
Ford?
Ford, no.
Raz?
Raz, yes.
Gums?
Come back to me, please.
Okay. Iqbal? Mr. Iqbal? Kenyon?
No.
Caius?
Yes.
Copy?
Opie, no.
Leonard,
No.
Lewis,
Lewis, no.
Martin,
Martin, no.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, no.
Silva. Dr. Silva, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
sorry,
Strathman, yes.
Surges,
Burgess, no.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Wallace. Mr.
Wallace, no.
Okay, thank you. Winnicki,
No.
and I'm coming back to, oh my gosh,
Gums.
Gums, where are you? There you are.
I'll be a yes.
I'm sorry,
A yes.
that's a yes, okay. Mr. Iqbal, did you have a vote? No?
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like it fails, but 1, 2,
Failed.
3, 4,
All right, the motion fails.
11, 12, 13, yeah. 13 fails.
So my next challenge to all of you, and following up to Mr. Sanchez, we are going to be facing by 2025 a $39 million budget deficit. Your next challenge during this period of time is to figure out how in the heck you're going to make up that budget deficit. And who do you want to cut?
No more.
Who do you want to cut?
Going to be a cut. No.
33% of our budget potentially is going to have to be cut to provide for these services that are required by the Safety Act.
Really ought to be made in January. And, well.
So easy enough.
We were, Berman here, we were no more assured of it, not having that cut, even if we passed and put the referendum on the ballot. So, I mean, we don't know how the referendum's gonna go.
Okay.
But either way, budget has to be balanced.
Budget has to be balanced. So it'll be tomorrow we begin the conversations from your committee chairs. And here we go. Okay, thank you all. Good conversation. Let's go back on. Hold on a second.
What are we at now?
I need to breathe for a minute. I need to get the best of
Really know what our home numbers are. No, we don't. Yes, another, right.
Okay. We have one more item to vote on. This is item number 22-316. May I have a motion and a second to move item number 22-316?
Berman moves.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Caius. Any discussion on this item? None? No one has any words to say? You're all worded out? All right, please call the roll.
Okay. Ellen,
Allen, I.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Oh, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford, Raz,
Yes.
Gums, Iqbal, Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Opie,
Opie, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Silva, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Burgess, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Winnicki.
Yes.
That passes.
Passes, very good. I do not believe that we need to go to executive session.
And more.
May,
May I introduce a motion
yes,
to
please.
adjourn? And
Thank you.
Hallelujah.
it's still
Wallace,
daylight.
second.
Second.
It's still morning.
Oh, man, we still got
So we have a motion to adjourn our meeting to September 13th, 2022. I'll